Hey sister friends, it's Terry from Sisterhood of the Traveling Brush. Welcome, welcome. We are going to paint a pumpkin because it's pumpkin season, but we're going to paint a teal pumpkin because it's a topic that's close to my heart. If you're not familiar with the Teal Pumpkin Project, they probably have a website. I'm pretty sure they do because we used to order supplies from there to promote it at our store before the hurricane took the store. Anyway, teal pumpkin is something a child will carry if they have food allergies, and it's something that you'll put on your porch if you have something to give children who have food allergies that's not been contaminated with other things. And hopefully I'll remember to come back to that part for a second. But so many kids have food allergies and sensitivities now that are life-threatening. Two of my grandchildren do. My oldest granddaughter, Jewel, has a peanut allergy, and she's been through something called OIT. If that's something you want to know about, which is like an oral immunotherapy, you can message me about that. I won't go too deep into that here because we're about to paint a pumpkin. But and I guess I could be painting and talking. She's now desensitized to it. But I have a granddaughter, Jesslyn, who has been through OIT for dairy and egg, but still possibly needs it for wheat and stuff like that. But when we would go to people's house who would have a teal pumpkin trick-or-treating, sometimes they would maybe have, I don't know, a little plastic bracelet, but it was down in with the candy. And that's part of the thing that I think that a lot of people don't understand is if it's been contaminated by being in the bucket with the other candy that may have the allergen, the kids still can't touch it. They can't reach their hand in the possible contaminated area and get stuff either. So it would be nicer to hand them the things that are, they have the little spider rings, and they have things that are non-edible, little packs of crayons, quarters I would sometimes give if I was out of other things at my house. And this was even before I had grandchildren with food allergies. But the Teal Pumpkin Project is to raise awareness for these life-threatening allergies. And a lot of people, we went through this so terribly with my oldest granddaughter, Jewel, through school and all that, is just tell her don't eat peanut butter. Well, Lord have mercy, if it was that easy, we'd have done that a long time ago. It's not about them eating it, it's about them coming in contact with it, which means if your little grandkid eats a peanut butter cereal with their fingers dry on the way to school and then touches the doorknobs and the monkey bars, and my little grandkid comes in right behind them and grabs that same doorknob or monkey bar, those proteins have now contaminated that, and my granddaughter could die because your grandkid ate cereal with their fingers on the way to school. So those are things about compassion that you can teach the children in your family. And please ask me questions if you want to know more about that, because I know you're here to paint a pumpkin, so we're gonna do that. But the Teal Pumpkin Project is very important, and if you live in an area where there are trick-or-treaters and you believe in trick-or-treating and all that, if you could buy and keep separate some non-food items, put that teal pumpkin on your porch, I promise you, you will make mothers and grandmothers and little boys and girls so proud of you for educating yourself on dangers of something that should be fun and making it into something that could kill a child. So we're going to paint a teal pumpkin because it's strong on my heart today, because it's that time of the season when my grandkids should have fun and they have to be afraid. So I always like to, this is something else too. I always thought, real artists just take to their canvas and paint it right out of their head. Well, dummy me, since I've started doing a whole lot more art myself, I have found out that's a bunch of malarkey. The best artists have a plan it out in advance, draw it out, do practices, all kinds of things happen for really good art. And some things you wing and some things don't turn out how you want them to. On here, I've drawn an outline of a pumpkin semi in the center. Smart person would have made it off center a little bit, but we'll work on that with something else later. I just want to get the pumpkin on here. Thinking about the buffet that I have here in back, Those are placeholders for trees that you see. I like to do that on canvas too. So I'm going to use DIY weathered wood for that. I'm going to dab right here in the lid. There's going to be a decent amount of intermingling of these colors and all that kind of stuff, and we're just not going to worry. Let's just outline sort of where our pumpkin's going to be. We're just getting it on here, laying it in. These are our dark areas. But what this will do will be deepen the next colors that we put on without us having to do a whole lot of effort. And I like the way it looks once we work on our background with a little bit of this showing. So just take whatever paint you're using. Doesn't have to be DIY. Can be craft paint from the store or acrylic paint, whatever you have. We're just making some placeholders for this here. I'm going to lightly put it in there, just so it does. And we'll probably have some leaves and stuff later that we're going to worry about at that time. But I'm going to put this aside because we'll probably do some swirlies with it later. We could do this flat teal, which I got Mermaid teal out for that, but it will look better if we mix up the colors a little bit. So I'm going to go with my first coat with Farm Fresh, starting in these areas that don't have as much of the weathered wood. You could blow dry between coats, you could put top coat between each coats, but we're wanting to finish this quickly. We're doing this for enjoyment and to have a little bit of a fall decoration and to talk about an important topic. And I always like to mix in a little of whatever color I'm using on my bottom part. So boom on that. So I'm going to come on next with my Mermaid teal. This is a deeper teal. I'm going to get another kind of decent sized brush for that. This is a 1-inch flat. And I'm laying this on pretty thick, see? I'm getting a good glob this time. This may cause me a problem in a minute, but I'm going with it. I'm hoping that this being so thick, it'll suck up some of that looseness in the layers underneath. You could do this with a palette knife. I'm using this brush as if it were a palette knife. See how I'm holding it like that? And now let's just come in and do those sort of rounded humps that would be on our pumpkin anyways. Put a little down here. Maybe even put a little up there. How about that? I need to let this dry just a tad, so we're going to work on the background a little bit. I have no idea what color I was going to do the background. Let's go with Water Lily. I'm going to grab another bigger brush, another 1-inch flat, and let's get some Water Lily on here. Doesn't matter the brush stroke directions or anything. My ferrule's a little bit loose on this brush, so let's get it on here. I'm getting as close as I can to the pumpkin, but I'm wanting a little bit of the weathered wood to show. But not so much the white canvas. Again, this could be done with a palette knife or a brush. I'm doing a brush because it's quick and I figure everybody's got some access to some brushes of some size or sort. I'm going to come back at the end and do a different color around the edges, so I'm not worried about painting my edges right now. But I am laying this on pretty thick. If you wanted, you could thin this out and use it like watercolor. I mean, that's all up to what you want. I want mine to have a little bit of texture. This is going to be my light side, that's going to be my dark side. So I'm just putting in a little bit to sort of get a base color in there. Definitely coming back with more colors later. We need a little bit of shadow under here. And I want just a tad of every color that I use to be in my pumpkin. I'm going to grab some Queen Bee to go in that on my table or my ground or whatever that's going to end up being right there. What did I say? This was going to be our darker side. I'm sort of blending that in to come up with a, you know, yet another little bit of color there. And here's a little trick so that you don't have to worry about what the shape of your pumpkin is down here. Let's put some little grasses and things that'll be coming up over it. And that hides any worries that you have down there. So now we've decided this is grasses instead of a table, I guess, unless it's a centerpiece. But look, we can put a little bit of something up around our pumpkin this way. Just to give it a little bit of interest. Here's some Prom Queen, which is a pale blue. Okay, we're back on. This will be a semi kind of a highlight. Hey, that I'm picking up a little bit of that yellow. Taught us how to play guitar, and we started up a band in my garage. We thought our dream would take us so far. When you're using your palette knife, you're barely touching it. You're barely touching it because you're letting the canvas grab ever how much paint that it wants off of there. It's not that you're applying paint, it's that the canvas is grabbing paint. You can also use this at this time to scratch a little bit of stuff in there if you want. I know a lot of people really love that. It's not usually my thing, but we can do it. Makes it, especially when you're doing sticks and leaves and stuff like that, it comes up a whole lot better. Like that. I like to do some white. Let's see what I have. I have Tarnished Pearl. And I'm going to grab another palette knife, a little bit of a larger one this time. I'm just going to try to lighten some of these areas up a tad, including on the pumpkin. If you go too hard with this, and I'm heavy-handed, so that happens to me a lot, it don't take nothing off. It's like you're trying to rub it on and you're really rubbing it off. Remember to be gentle. I put my feet up and we just sing along, and I can't help but feel it. It's okay that things get uglier before they're before they're done. Show yourself some grace. And that's so much. Let's scrape some off. I don't want to contaminate that whole thing. Let's just contaminate the lid. While we're still letting the pumpkin dry a little bit, I'm going to use some Salty Kiss and put a little bit of green down here in our grass area. do that with a palette knife too. This is just a regular dollar store one. A little heavier on this side. We'll use this down in our shadow too, what will be our shadow later. And just put the side of your palette knife in there like that, get some on, and try to be a little more gentle than me. But this is where you learn patience and all the good things. My patience aren't always the best, so this is why I have this need to learn, because it's teaching me valuable lessons, kind of like Mr. Miyagi and wax on, wax off, you know? You're learning stuff when you don't even know you're learning stuff. I mean, barely any over here. We still want this kind of green, but we want it lighter than over there.
Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment.
I'm going to use some Elixir, the making powders. And you can see I'm hardly putting any on my plate. This looks like about a 3/4 inch angle. Not using it as an angle brush, just using it as a larger brush. I'm gonna get some of that, and let's see if we can lay it on here and if this wet paint will pick it up.
Don't you know that I would, 'cause I'm just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever?
While that's wet, and because this dries it off, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of, what is this one? The Bright Side. Here's another 1-inch brush I happen to find. I'm just gonna dampen it so that I can pick this up easier. Just a little bit of the Bright Side there.
Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane.
Okay, a little bit of every color everywhere. Boom, done. I'm gonna go back to another making powder. This one is Pool Party instead of the Mermaid Tail. They're very, very similar. Grab another little angle brush.
There's something in the air and a sparkly shimmer on our skin.
Okay, now we're gonna go back to our Mermaid Tail paint and get mostly teal back on our pumpkin. I'm just gonna go with a palette knife for this. Grab some out.
Easy, easy on our tiptoes under.
Going back to the Weathered Wood, our lightest color. A liner brush. Look how, can you see how long that is? Normally you want this to be pretty thin. Mine is not. We're gonna see what's gonna happen because this is a little bit rustic. Well, you drop it right there and you let that happen.
Reaching for the ground. As willows align, we lose track of time. Let up high, now we climb.
And for my first highlight color, I'm gonna use Liquid Sunshine.
Dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes under.
You can put any color in here that you want to.
Beyond gravel, beyond dawn. A bigger scale, the world inhales.
We need to do something with this back area, and I don't know whether this is gonna work or not, and if it doesn't, y'all can laugh at me because I'll laugh at me too. I don't have another color here, and I want another color, so I'm gonna grab another of the making powders. This one is Violicious. I guess that's how you pronounce it. I'm gonna put a little bit on here, and I'm gonna try to make it kind of like a glaze over that top part. And you see there, I'm putting the water.
Dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy,
about a 1/2 inch flat. And I just want another color. We're just gonna go flat on right up in there with the Liquid Sunshine. I hope that if you're not familiar with it, that you get familiar with it, and if you are familiar with it, I hope you'll go and tell somebody else about it so that these kids can live a safer life and get to enjoy some of the same things that children without life-threatening allergies get to enjoy.
And it's kind of strange, don't even know your name. I don't know you, but I want to.
Where your dark meets your light and your light meets the dark, that's where your magic happens.
Get to know you, just wanna get to know you.
Okay, with the DIY paint, one thing that I will definitely need to do will be to cover this with Big Top or wax or whatever at the end. So I have that out, but it definitely needs to dry first.
Tell me what it's like from the other side. Would you stay?
I hate it. Don't that always happen? Okay. Last thing I'm gonna do, I think, is I'm gonna grab this Tarnished Pearl and we're gonna go on there again. And hopefully it'll pick up all those other colors now.
Just wanna get to know you.
Anybody else have days like this? One more time with just a little brush. And I keep wanting to put a table in here even though we've got grasses in here, so I feel like that's what's missing in my mind, so I'm doing it. A little bit of shadow.
You, but I want to get to know you. Just wanna get to know you. I know you, but I want to get to know you. Just wanna get to know you.
Today is the day of the crash and burn. I'm still not happy with this. I'm gonna have to go over it with something else later. I don't know what yet. Let me see if I can just scumble in a little of this darker over here and make myself happy. My heart's there, so hopefully that accounts for something. My heart was in it. I'm gonna do one more thing, which is go ahead and frame it in around the edges. But there you go. I hope you learned a little bit about the Teal Pumpkin today, the Teal Pumpkin Project, and that it's okay to fail sometimes.